There was a theory it was an inside job, which got me excited because to me that means fraud. And rather than just stealing, which I don't think is fraud exactly, but yeah, some layer of inside job. But I don't know if that's the case, if one of the guys was an insider.
I like, Josh, how you were concerned that this is just a theft, a robbery. It has nothing to do with our podcast.
You gotta look out for what's important in life.
Hello and welcome to this emergency podcast of the Fraud Complex. My name is Garth Sharif.
I am Josh Sager.
And we're here today. This is spontaneous, unplanned, because there's a huge heist in the news that you may know about. Josh, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I follow every Louvre heist, peripherally, and I learned a little bit about this one, but not too much, so I'm a bit out of date.
What's funny, there have been a few heists at the Louvre. I don't know how we say it.
Louvre.
You gotta really purse your lips. I think you did a good job.
Thanks.
This is the most audacious, maybe the amount of value of the jewelry and art and everything else that was taken and go through it. But I just thought, why not? We had a heist. Our very first episode, Josh. Do you remember that episode way back?
Yeah, the gold bars heist from the Toronto Pearson Airport.
Right. When I was reading about this case, and this is why it's an emergency pod, because they've arrested two of the individuals. We're learning more detail. There's things happening. They got two of the guys.
Yeah.
But I thought there were some similarities to the gold heist. So listen to that episode in terms of it's not too complicated what happened here. Even though there might be more complexity than I'm giving, the big picture of it isn't that complicated. And what do you know about this heist? Do you know what happened?
I read a headline this weekend, but I didn't follow up, that said there was a theory it was an inside job, which got me excited because to me that means fraud. And rather than just stealing, which I don't think is fraud exactly, but yeah, some layer of inside job. But I don't know if that's the case, if one of the guys was an insider.
I like, Josh, how you were concerned that this is just a theft, a robbery. It has nothing to do with our podcast.
You gotta look out for what's important in life.
It's why are we talking about this? Because this is a straight up robbery. We need some level of deception. We should put that out there for the viewer. Maybe it was an inside job. Possibly. I'm looking at it from another point of view that's related to the fraud complex, which is 3 words, Josh, that we've talked about in other episodes.
Wait, fraud risk triangle?
Yeah, that actually helps too.
Oh,
the fraud risk triangle, rationalization, opportunity, incentive, and actually, I should take that back. It's actually 2 words that I haven't emphasized as much: internal controls. That's the Louvre.
Oh,
the Louvre.
Yeah.
They're getting some bad press about did they have the controls in place. So, do you know what happened here? How they got in, where they got in? I have some of the detail because I've been reading about this.
Yeah, what I gather is it was a very simple infiltration where they pulled up in a pickup truck that had an electric ladder, and it looked like they were doing, maintenance or something. I think the guys were in maintenance coveralls or,
And where is that from?
Reflector vest?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a callback to our first episode.
The reflector vest gets you into any place, anytime. It's keep one handy if you ever need to pull a scam. But then they cut open the windows with grinders. I don't know what that meant. And then they smashed and grabbed some jewels that belonged to Napoleon Bonaparte's wife. And then they made off. I don't know. I think it was in and out in 7 minutes. That's pretty much what I know.
Napoleon Bonaparte's wife. We're right. Empress
Josephine.
Eugene. This is
Eugene?
this. Oh. This is where I will not be able to offer any depth about what the actual meaning of these stolen items were. They're very expensive. But you're right. I don't know if there was a vest involved. And they were dressed as almost construction workers. And if you look at the images, you can even Google it. This ladder, as you said, that goes up to the top floor of the museum. And so they came in from the balcony. And it was called the Gallery of Apollo. So to me, this is related to the fraud complex because it's about looking for the opportunity for this to take place. We talked about internal control. So what was the opportunity? Because if you think about a theft, like the gold heist, it's inside. It's kind of getting inside the structure that you're trying to steal. These guys had a different approach. They wanted to get inside, but they didn't start inside. They started from the exterior, quite visible, to anybody that was walking by at 9:30 in the morning on, what is it, October 19th? I thought that was brazen. These guys are brazen. I mean, it's interesting that way.
Hiding in plain sight. But all these historic buildings, like when I've been to France, it's like everything's under construction. I feel like I didn't see a single church that wasn't having an entire facade like redone. And so I think it was brilliantly simple, because just like, yeah, who pays attention? That just happens everywhere.
So smart, Josh. I never thought about that. It was Notre Dame. This is in France, so they've had a number of reconstructions, and some of them from that's the fire at Notre Dame. So you're suggesting, like, because it would have been to me, I would have been nervous to do this from the outside. That's why it's such a crazy thing. You're not like kind of sneaking in, like kind of Home Alone 2. Remember Home Alone 2, where they're hidden in the toy store? I think that's a good way to go. Just hide out. Just wait.
Yeah, they could have hidden in the bathroom. You know,
in the bathroom.
Yeah,
you know.
Maybe they had a policy to check the bathrooms though, but yeah. All the outside permit, like who knows everything that's going on at the Louvre at a time? I could just see someone being like, what are those guys doing? I got to check on that later.
So funny, because I imagine there were personnel in the Louvre that were around, not just passersby. So that's so funny. I think that's a really interesting observation, Josh, that it looked like any amount of reconstruction work that was happening. So it really didn't look, and you couldn't see from the Apollo that there was a smash and grab happening. Mm-hmm. And so, that's interesting. And I guess what they understood was at this level, there were internal control deficiencies. The alarm was deactivated. Now that's where the inside job might be part of this. Like, how did the alarm get deactivated? But there are some thoughts that maybe the Louvre had lapses in the alarm system, or it might have been cut. But for the purposes of this podcast, we should float that we think it's an inside job that we will explore in a full non-emergency pod so that we can call it fraud.
One simple deactivation could have allowed this. I had to admire they didn't get greedy. They had a targeted goal. Like, they didn't steal artwork. I think the Mona Lisa's been stolen a couple of times, and it always seems to come back. But these guys were like, we'll get some jewels. We're not going to sell them as full pieces. We're going to smash the jewels, sell them as for their pure raw gems value or gold or whatever. And I don't know. I just feel like for 7 minutes work, they probably could have come out ahead. I don't know how they got
Was
caught,
it 7
though.
minutes? You know some of this.
They were in and out in 7 minutes.
Wow. Why are we always admiring these things in the fraud complex? But 7 minutes, smash and grab, and you're right, very precise. So they knew what they were doing. Like, I'm just looking at all the items that were stolen, like an emerald necklace and a pair. It's like 102 million, I think, in total value. Wow. Is what I saw. So that's a pretty good 7 minutes.
100 mil.
100 mil.
Man.
They looked for vulnerabilities, and they really explored the opportunity. So they had to take out the alarm. And I think the deception is the most interesting, is that one, they had looked like a construction worker. On the fraud complex, one of the learning objectives are those vests that you get at a Dollar Tree, whatever, they are very good to commit fraud with. Whatever vest, people just think, well, it's got the vest. They're official.
It's like Harry Potter's invisibility cloak. Like, no one can see you if you wear a vest.
Really? I like that. It's exactly what that is. And so let me just see here. I was going to list some of them some of the items that were stolen. Yeah, I mean, these were like some interesting things. The brooch belonging to Napoleon III was interesting. Emerald necklace from Empress Marie Louise. This is where we need to do a crossover with a podcast that has historians on them so that they can tell us what they represent. Like, Queen Hortense, a brooch known as the reliquary brooch. Reliquary? And there's a lot of big words that I apparently am not able to say or understand in the jewels that were stolen.
I got this sense that this was an affront to the French, because it's like attacking the culture, the history, the sanctity of the Louvre, which seems to get hit every couple of years, There's lots of stuff that goes down. But I don't know, like, if they're caught, is this going to be a very politicized thing? Are these guys going to go to jail for life? Whereas, if you stole some other jewel thief thing, like, maybe they'd get a couple of years, or I don't know. I feel like there's greater risk to hitting a high-profile building or a high-profile...
This is the risk-reward, right? Versus Operation Bear Claw.
Yeah.
You go big or go home on this one, Operation Bear Claw, listen to that one. That one, you're like, They didn't go big and they went home. This one, at least they went for the home run. So to your point, this is what people are saying about it in France. Some of them are, this is political in France. I want you to be careful here because there's a nationalism, exactly as you pointed out, but it's intolerable humiliation, the wound to the French soul. Some of this is already looking at it nationalistically, and so there's political spears being thrown. So these jewel thieves, not only did they cause a bunch of pandemonium in the Louvre, they've caused more political unrest in France. So good for you, jewel thieves.
I feel like North American equivalent, like what would hit us close to home? Because I don't think raiding our museums would do it.
National treasure. No? Is there like that wouldn't get us upset maybe?
Yeah, like hitting a sports hall of fame or stealing something belonging to a sports figure, I think would hit us.
I think that's the one, right? I think if you went into Ohio, the baseball hall of fame or whatever, and you took something, Babe Ruth's jersey, I don't know if that exists.
Irreplaceable,
attached to the national sort of pride of the country. Like, for example, if you stole the original maple syrup that we have somewhere in a vault in Canada. We don't know where it is. It's in a vault deep under the permafrost of the north. But if somebody stole the original maple syrup that gave birth to all maple syrup, we would have a national crisis, and it would cause a lot of despair.
We'd enact the death penalty for that one.
Death by maple syrup. We just smother you with maple syrup, and like Goldfinger, just death by by maple syrup. Horrible. Canadians can be nice, except when you take a maple syrup. And you asked too, this is a quick research on this. Similar thefts. So 1911, an Italian museum employee. So that would have qualified for the fraud complex. This one I'm not sure. We might have to do a follow-up. That made off with the Mona Lisa. Under his coat. Wow, that one may be worth exploring on another podcast. Like, how did you get the Mona Lisa? That wasn't a big coat.
It's not a big painting. It's like
you have to go under a coat. I've seen the Mona Lisa. I never thought if I could get my hands on this and I had a coat, I would be able to get away with this. Yeah,
I mean, it does seem like it would have drawn some attention. It would have to be pretty darn big coat.
Okay, so that maybe those were the big coat days of 1911.
The Mona Lisa, stolen a couple of times. It sort of surprises me that these jewels were real. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always curious, is the Mona Lisa real? Is it just, honestly, would it?
We're veering into another podcast here. We're questioning whether any of the things in the Louvre is real or if they're all photocopied. And there's another Louvre. I think this is in a Dan Brown book. There's another Louvre in a alternate dimension that actually has the actual items.
Right. Or, there's just like a photocopy of the Mona Lisa for the public. And then the real one is in a bank.
Apparently not. I just couldn't imagine the amount of commotion. These are the real jewels here that have been stolen. And maybe that's part of the pride, right? That France putting out the most historical, most expensive items in the world in the Louvre. And they're saying we can secure these. We have the security. We have the controls. And obviously in this case, these guys just needed a crane, a vest. Obviously there's some complexity. Shut down the alarms, but then smash and grab 7 minutes and Bob's your uncle.
Did they? I've recalled they haven't recovered the jewels, or were there any updates that you saw?
I have been looking on eBay to see if I can purchase any of these, but I don't think.
The news had nothing. I checked eBay.
And
I made some bids.
Got into a couple marketplaces. I don't want to buy stolen goods, but there seems to be a good.
Oddly, the Real has some. It's a tiara. It's technically clothing. 40% off the market value. It's
why
incredible.
not? It'd be an interesting look because they've arrested 2 people. The story's developing. This is an emergency pod, just because I thought it was interesting to take a look at.
People need to know. They need to know.
They need to know that. I guess the biggest thing is look out for people with vests. Don't trust them anymore. If you see a vest, so any of those vests, just raise an eyebrow. We're not encouraging you to confront anybody, but just raise an eyebrow.
We've uncovered a pattern, and
we have. It's a public service episode.
It really is. If you have a vest, you can access pretty much anything.
We should put this to the test. You and I should get a vest.
Yeah.
Like the Louvre is I think that is the...
Could we go back? Could we pull the same thing, the same exact operation, if we just had vests?
So this is a social experiment where we, on our budget at the Fraud Complex, which is not up to this point, but we're planning to fly to Paris, put on a vest. Probably don't have the funds to get the crane, but use the vest. We're creative people. We could figure out a more cost-effective way to do this.
That truck, was that a stolen truck, or was it... I don't know if we have any answers on this.
Oh, they set the truck on fire.
Why
They
did
set
they
the
do
truck on fire.
Like DNA? Is that...
I feel like
Seems
that's
excessive.
very much in Get Smart, in Mission Impossible. You got to set something on fire to close it out.
Wait,
And then in other show, like movies too, like The Town, and you set the thing on fire. Maybe there was things you could trace it back to them too, so they set it on fire.
They got the jewels. They climbed back down that ladder. Did they drive away in that truck? I think they escaped in like other vehicle, or like...
Yeah.
They didn't drive the truck away. They just set the truck on fire. Is that...
Yeah, I think they got away in other means, like probably another vehicle, because it happened so quickly. And they had one of the CCTV cameras were down too, so they have some footage from the outside, but they just don't have. Yeah, they don't have a whole bunch of information, and they're gonna piece this together. But this is about controls, and the Louvre would be under fire if this wasn't an inside job. Because an inside job, we've talked about it, the airport heist, it gets. You have to ask with an inside job, who was the person, how were they hired, what do they have access to, do they have access to the alarm systems? And then there's also accountability for the Louvre there. But if there wasn't an inside job, then it's just a question of why was the alarm not working, why the CCTV, why wasn't there any concern about what was happening? Because 7 minutes is short, I think, in our minds, but it's a long time in the space to like figure out something's going wrong.
Right. Do we know, was the museum open, or was it like early in the day?
It's 9:30. I believe it was open. This is where my fact checking is. The gang. It's like again another. It's always on Philadelphia. The gang reported arrived at 9:30 local time, shortly after the museum opened.
There's like so much going on, like thousands of people probably like waiting. I heard they're even building like a new wing just to host the Mona Lisa, because it's like so many people just want to show up and see that painting. And so I bet that was a good time to do it, when probably more guards were looking at just kind of trying to help with crowd control and things. You don't expect a heist on a daily Tuesday or whatever it was.
At 9:30, and it said that they threatened the guards. I'm reading this part. So there was a level of threat. And
with the grinders, right? Like not like guns.
Yeah.
What is a grinder? I don't know.
There's so many definitions, and we're trying to keep this safe for work. But I guess the grinder in this situation is something that's used to open up like
one of those circular
store. Yeah.
The spinning thing.
Exactly that. I think that's what I see. I mean, I could look it up, but I don't want to put that in my search history just yet. So I'll just leave it to the imagination. But I think you did a good job. Both with the sound. I thought your sound effects were amazing.
Honestly, why would the guards be intimidated by the grinder? I guess they're not carrying weapons.
I also think if you look at how this happened, I think everything was a surprise. 9:30, the museum's open. The way they entered, that's a nighttime robbery situation. This broad daylight. I think the guards weren't prepared. They're looking at the situation. And they're like, listen, it's almost like, all these thefts that are happening at these stores, like a lot of thefts are happening, especially these teenagers and things. Like sometimes they're like, you know what, I'm not going to get hurt over this. This is...
Yeah, when I jump the turnstile at the subway, or I blow past without putting money in, they're not chasing me.
No.
They're going to be like, hey, oh, he's gone.
Yeah. I like the confession of the Fraud Complex about jumping the turnstile. I guess everyone does that in LA.
The headphones in, pretend you can't hear, you just walk through, and then you ignore, you pretend,
You know what? Great. I got a better situation for you, Josh. And for me too. I can do it in Toronto. I'm just going to put the vest on.
The vest, you don't even have.
I don't need the headphones. Hello. They might even open the doors for me.
Yeah.
It just said, hey, do you need this? Do you need the subway to yourself? You get the vest. I'm like, yeah, I don't want passengers on this. Please send them off.
Yeah.
I just need my own private car.
Just hold this one.
I got a vest.
I need a private. Yeah.
This vest tells you that I got serious stuff going on. Yeah. So I did want to tell you one other thing. So the 1911, the 1911, and then there's a 1998 one. I took French for a number of years, and it's so bad how my French is. The Chemin de Civres, I'm saying that so badly. Oh my gosh. I'm hesitating about whether I'm going to send this out in the world with the poor French we both are giving to the world. A 19th century painting by Camille Corot was stolen, has never been found.
Oh.
And so that was and also, this is also important to this, last month, thieves broke into another museum and stole porcelain works. There's more of a...
Last month?
This is another museum, not the Louvre. And then even last year, there was another museum, the Canac J Museum, I'm assuming in France. So it seems like... And another one, Heron Museum in Burgundy. So it looks like they're targeting museums. There's a theme here to target museums because there's some controls and opportunities that are there.
Everybody's got like their niche in their work. And I bet there's a certain type of thief who's like, yeah, my mission, I target medium-sized museums. I steal artwork and I do it without weapons, and I make 10% on the value of, you know what I mean? It's just like someone's day job, and they're like, okay, we're going to go to Amsterdam, we're going to go to Paris, we're going to go, you know what I mean?
Kind of
like
a nice, you get together in these nice cities, and it's almost like, and I think George Clooney commented on this because he was asked Ocean's 11. And then there's the one with Pierce Brosnan, the painting one that was remade. Because, it's funny about these types of thefts. Unlike the Bear Claw, Operation Bear Claw, there's a sort of admiration for these individuals because obviously we're not condoning theft at the Louvre. I don't think we are. We could. But it's just the filmatic, sort of cinematic, the Thomas Crown Affair. The Thomas Crown Affair.
Yeah.
That was remade. That was a good movie. And that was also a painting heist. There's something about these individuals that people are like, cool, versus, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing this.
Yeah, every time I hear about a heist, I'm like, oh, part of me is like, I could have thought of that. Yeah, I'm way too cowardly to do it. But I watch like the Pink Panther movies, the old French. I guess they're not French.
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers is Inspector Clouseau.
He's not French.
He's doing a great insulting French impression. But like, I think the movie was, the name of the Pink Panther is the name of the burglar. Like,
That's right. How many heist films have there been? Like, people love a great heist story. Real fiction. They love it. And this is kind of like that. And again, we can do that. No one got hurt. So the guards didn't get hurt. I think there's a national pride that might have got hurt in France that could be problematic politically in the country. So that's why we can, if someone got hurt, we probably wouldn't have done the emergency podcast because we don't want to see people get hurt. Nobody got hurt in the Toronto Pearson heist. No bears got hurt in the Operation Bear Claw, as far as we know.
Yeah.
So we cover crimes where people don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah.
Mentally, maybe, yes.
Yeah. There's victims, but there's not blood on the floor. At this stage, it's in development. Maybe we'll have to issue a retraction.
We might, because the issue becomes, I think, Goodfellas, right? Remember the character Goodfellas, Robert De Niro, is the person who plans the airport heist. It was an airport heist in Goodfellas. And then he gets paranoid that it's going to come back to him. And then the violence starts within the gang.
Right.
So,
there's always a betrayal.
Two people have been caught. Hopefully we don't see that. But yeah, it's possibly something that we come back to in a fuller episode. But we need this to be an inside job, I think, for that to happen. So we're rooting for that. I think I'm rooting for it. Are you? Inside job?
Well, I'd like answers to how the alarm wasn't working. And I'd like a satisfying answer. So if they were able to ingeniously figure that out without an insider, good for them. I'd be curious about that.
And I think
I suspect if it's just like hitting a switch, the inside job seems likely. But yeah, what do I know?
What do we know? We were just covering this sort of very surface level, but the CCTV cameras, which I think hopefully I'm saying like closed caption TV. I think from what I've read, there was a room where there was not one. So that's not an inside situation. That's an internal control thing. So we talked about opportunity, incentive. The incentive is there.
The room where those jewels were, there was no
one
camera.
Of the rooms. Yeah, there's no camera. From what I've read. This is where the Louvre is getting launched. Like, the Louvre is taking a lot of heat for this because if you just look at it at surface level, this should not have happened. You have in opening hours, in broad daylight, a crane going up. They have to cut through the balcony of the Apollo, get in, have the guards under control, the alarm under control, have to go into a room with no cameras, come back down. Like if you have vertigo or any type of fear of heights, I mean, you have to come down the thing. Below the thing, below the, whatever that thing is called. We got grinders. I don't know what the thing that they went up with is called.
I can't believe
they gotta do this in the 7 minutes. You know what? Bravo. Tip of the cap to you.
Yeah, and have the style to light the car on fire. Just like, because we saw this in a movie once, we'll light this thing on fire and we'll escape.
Because that's, okay, maybe you draw attention to it and away from them. Who knows? But we said this the last episode. I mean, these guys are so smart. The amount of planning and timing and teamwork
elegant.
And communication. You don't, like, I deliver business training to get these out. Sometimes like getting blood out of a stone. These, you know, with these guys had it. Just the creativity, innovation. Why they applied it to rob the Louvre, and maybe they're successful. 2 of them have been arrested. But you just wonder what they could do with these skills in more.
There's ways to make money legit in this life that if you have no ethics, you can do very well. And choosing to rob, like, it just is short term. And they got caught. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's maybe the robbery isn't the hard thing. It's the fencing the jewels, you know, keeping it quiet, like not getting ratted out. That's a human thing, right? You have to trust all sorts of people. That seems like the real. The heist doesn't end at the.
I think the heist begins in some ways because they know that every single intelligence agency in France and probably in Europe and probably in the US and every single resource on Earth is going to be directed at finding these individuals because it's just humiliating for the French government. And so they know if they pull this off, there's such an intense lookout for them that they have to figure out how to not only fence the goods but disappear. That might be the hardest part of all.
Yeah, what are you going to come out with? You have $100 million, but they can't sell these jewels as like a full thing. Nobody's going to buy the historic tiara. Maybe you can sell the individual jewels, but how much are those worth compared to...
Who knows? You sell it even at 10% of the value, that's still like millions of dollars, right? I think you could maybe sell these. And be honest with you, as I said, this is not like the Bear Claw. And listen to that episode it just dropped. I mean... at $100 million into the place where if you pull this off, you're getting a lifetime return if you could pull it off, but it might be breaking apart because they got 2 of them. And again, I don't know how people are looking at those 2. There is a sense of these guys are amazing that they did this, but once you get into the gang, I just don't know how long it holds up that the rest of them aren't caught.
Yeah. In all these movies about thieves, you go to like the one guy who probably knows something and is somewhat of an informant. And if all your cronies are other jewel thieves or thieves, like what are the chances one of them doesn't have a charge against them and they can leverage talking to the police? You know what I mean? Like
that's
there's
what
a lot
happened
of
with the gold heist, right? The driver got arrested in the U.S. in Pittsburgh, I think, on a totally unrelated charge, and then they connected him back to the gold heist. And this is going to be made into a movie, right? This one?
Oh, you would think so. Yeah. Or, inspired by whatever. They would have to add like a sexy demolitions girl or a driver. They need to layer it up. They need a tech guy to help.
They need a tech guy. But maybe they don't. In this one, I'd kind of like if it was just very simple. But you could add all those pieces. But maybe it was so simple to add something that keeps it simple but add some drama. If the movie doesn't have enough weight, I think you need a romance. Maybe one of the guards inside the Louvre he loved and he didn't want to do this, she would be there. I feel like that would get us into it. And she's like, she recognized his eyes. I'm like, I know this guy.
There might be a very human, story behind like, what is the motive? Is it desperation or is it greed?
Hey, we're trying to humanize this.
If I'm writing this, I'm like, okay, my grandmother needs that operation.
All right.
I got to come up with, 100 mil very quickly. How am I going to do that?
I just saw Michael Bay. I don't know what you feel about his films, but I just saw the Jake Gyllenhaal Michael Bay film about this. I think it's called Emergency. It's an ambulance.
Oh, yeah. I like that one.
I really like that film. And the reason that the movie got me in is because the name of the actor is on the tip of my tongue, but his wife somebody needs a medical procedure. I think his wife does.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about rationalization, you have to also, in these situations, you have to have the audience sort of on your side. Otherwise, if it's just straight up greed, you're not exactly into the film or what these guys said. But if there's that, what you said, that element of humanity that made them sort of, or motivated one or more of them to do this, then you're like, oh, yeah, I feel for you.
And I think we all feel desperate at times in our lives. And we're like, what would be a quick solution? Yeah. And every time I see a Brinks truck, I'm like, okay, this could be like in Groundhog Day. If I time it just right, I can just grab the bag of money and, you know what I mean? And nobody will be the wiser.
It's interesting. I think that's one of the things we've done on this podcast is to kind of look at the rationalization side, because this is something I talked about when I did that fraud examiner's course, is that generally people don't wake up and say, I'm going to do something like this. Again, who knows? Organized crime, it's different. We don't know in this case. But a lot of times there's a reason to do it. Sometimes not the best reason. Sometimes you could have looked at the situation differently. But there is tendency to be a reason that validates what they're doing. Could be a number of things here in the Louvre. But closing thoughts, Josh, how's this going to turn out?
It's going to turn out poorly for the robbers, I would guess. And they got 2 of them. If there's anyone else involved, I think they're going to find them. But I am excited because I do want to hear their story. I do want to hear their motive. If there's anything other than just pure greed, I think that would be really interesting. And I'm really curious. The one thing about a high-profile case like this, we're going to figure out what happened. They're going to figure out if there's an insider. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to keep following it.
So some of your big questions. Give me some of the things you want to find out about this case.
I want to find out if there was a girl in this story. I always think when there's a girl involved, then it's just like it just breaks the stereotypes.
We're rooting for a female to be involved. It'd be good if she was the mastermind. I want to see that.
I mean, that would be very progressive. I want to know, are they French? Was this a crime against their own people?
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
Were they American? That could cause a huge problem.
It adds to some problems, yes.
Was there a detective? Was there a Clouseau type investigator?
Hopefully not a Clouseau type.
Clouseau usually got the guy though, like
That's
through
true.
in his own charming way. But yeah, I want answers, and I feel like we're gonna get them.
Yeah, I think those are great questions. I want to know what this truck was. Where did they get this truck? Where can I get a truck like that? I think, sometimes it's nice to look on high from things. And if those are available, I'd rather get that than a Cybertruck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I have that choice in front of me, but
a truck with an electric ladder could come in handy.
I feel like that's something that maybe that becomes a trend. That's one thing I want to know. The grinder, what is a grinder? I'm not going to look it up, but I just like to know what that is. And again, this is something that I need. I guess I'm thinking about myself, plus the vest. And I would love for there to be a recreation of this. Somebody gets a timer. And I like to see, because we don't have the full sort of beginning to end. I love, like, if you're going to make the movie of this, you got to do Paul Anderson one shot. If it was 9 minutes and 30 seconds, 7 minutes, whatever. Just boom, you see a clock. Yeah. Because I think 7 minutes in a robbery seems long, maybe, but just the nature of how quick this was, I want to see how that looked. I love a single cam. A single cam. Yeah. You're just following it, you're going up the line, and it's just like frantic. And, I think Steven Soderbergh can pull this off. And then I love to see the planning. Like, you're right. Like, who came up with the idea? How did they case the Louvre? What did they think about what they're going to steal? How do they know one of the rooms didn't have? To me, they obviously went in as tourists a bunch of times, right? I have to believe they went in as tourists a bunch of times and looked around, looked where the cameras were, got a sense of the top floor, and looked out and said, how many guards were here? What are the rotations? And they picked this time because they knew this was the most opportune time. So all of that, to me, is really interesting, and I'd love to hear answers to those. I hadn't thought about that. They probably had to show their ID to go in, don't you think? Do you have to show your ID to go to the Louvre? I don't know. But that seems we can speculate here, like we've speculated on bears and speculated on like airports, a payment method, and speculated on the Amish. Yeah. No, I don't know. But yeah, maybe they were able to, go through old footage of like who's been looking at that particular room a lot lately. Who didn't go to the Mona Lisa but went to that room? Because that's the other thing too, right? I think also the other thing, traffic. this is probably not the most trafficked area in the Louvre, right? This is like your Mona Lisa is where all the people go. So this one, they knew there might have been very little people, also maybe less. I'm going to give them a little bit of a positive look that maybe no civilian would get harmed in this either. All right.
Sure.
Well, we'll see what happens, Josh. Maybe we'll have another fulsome episode on this, but our first emergency podcast, email us at fraudcomplex@gmail.com. I think that's the email address. Don't have my notes in front of me. And let us know if you'd like to hear another episode once we get more details. And yeah, Josh, any final words?
No, just keep an eye out for other heists that you can do in your neighborhood. If you've never done a crime, they're not going to be looking for you. So this is your opportunity. Get a vest, keep it simple, smash and grab something, and retire.
We might get our G rating taken away from Spotify and Apple because we have moved well into encouraging fraud and theft. But what you said is
it's not true.
It's not true. Vest, no criminal history. And I guess the other thing we'd add now after the bear claw is go big.
Yeah, do it at a scale that it's a one and done.
Don't do the bear claw situation. You listen to that episode.
Yeah.
It's humiliating. All right. Well, thanks, Josh. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Garth.